Welcome to the Silver Screen Project, where we look back at a series of films in anticipation of an exciting new cinema release.
In preparation for the long-awaited Top Gun Maverick, we've gone back and watched 1986's Top Gun, starring Tom Cruise, which I believe neither of us had seen before.
Neither of us had somehow seen this before.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of 80s classics. There's thousands and thousands of die-hard fans of this film that are probably very excited for Top Gun Maverick. I'm glad I finally watched it. It's been on my list for years.
Yeah.
So we watch it on first time was different from what we've been doing before.
Yeah, most of these we'd seen the series leading up to it and we were kind of recapping, doing a bit of retrospective, whereas, initial reactions for both of us.
Yeah, and also being, I'd say, aside from when we watched The Dark Knight, probably the most popular film we've covered.
And the furthest back by far.
Because it's got a sequel like nearly 40 years after the original.
Which is crazy, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm kind of all on board for, like, I'm a bit of a, like, fool for these 80s franchises having one more, even if half the time they're not very good, but I'm there for it.
Yeah. Well, what did you think of Top Gun?
I thought it was very, very 80s.
Yes.
I was kind of all there for it.
Incredibly 80s.
I thought it was good fun. Like, I can see why people really like this film.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's one of those that's like, it's not like the greatest film ever made, but it's entertaining. I think it was the top box office film of 1986.
I'm sure it was,
which doesn't surprise me. It was a huge film. But yeah, I had great fun with it. How about you?
Yeah, same. As I said, it was very kind of 80s, quite silly throughout. Enjoyable, although going into the negatives almost immediately, I feel like not that much really happened throughout the
film. I feel like it's definitely more of a vibe than a plot.
It's style over substance is one way of putting it there.
But the style is great.
And something to do with maybe the fact that they play the same two songs a lot throughout, which we will get to. It felt a lot like a music video, and I wouldn't be surprised if the music videos for some of those songs include clips from this film, because at least one of them was written for this film, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. So straight into that, actually.
Yeah. Which one? Yeah, they're good things about it. There is some great music in this.
Yeah. So the most famous one is "Danger Zone" by Kenny Loggins, which we hear twice in the first 15 minutes of the film.
We do. Yeah. It starts up again, and you go, "Okay, we're here."
It comes in again about an hour in.
Yeah.
There's also "Take My Breath Away."
Yes.
Is used on 3 occasions as well.
It is, and there's one moment that's very memorable, which we'll get to in the negatives later on. I think.
Oh, okay. I can't, but like I think there's one other song in it, but they play like 7 songs in this film.
Yeah,
3 times it's Danger Zone. 3 times it's Take My Breath Away.
I think Kenny Loggins recorded a fair few kind of originals for this. I think there's some that aren't as prominent.
I also read that when they had Danger Zone as a song, they originally approached Toto to do it.
Okay.
And they turned it down. This was like the peak of Toto. And when I was like, I could totally see Toto doing this, but it went to Kenny Loggins.
Right.
And it's a good song. Like, I've listened to that song plenty of times. I like the song, even though I'd never seen Top Gun.
Yeah.
But aside from that, because you have to mention Danger Zone straight away.
Mention it up top.
I thoroughly enjoyed the whole fighter pilot stuff.
It's kind of a bit like a sports film, but about fighter pilots instead.
It's kind of at times hard to follow what's going on in the dogfights.
Yeah,
but
that was one of my points,
you're kind of invested in it, and I thought it was thoroughly enjoyable. And it's nice to see it's a lot of these rivalries of people that are on the same team just trying to show they're the best and who are the best at what they do based on the real life Top Gun school.
Right, okay,
And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, this is fun, and I well enjoyed it.
It feels a lot like I say, a sports film, like say people are trying to compete to get on like the Premier team or like an NBA thing or whatever. And it feels like that. And there's this kind of competitiveness between mainly Maverick and Iceman, Maverick is Tom Cruise and Iceman is Val Kilmer.
Yeah, I saw Val Kilmer didn't want to do this film, but he was contractually obliged.
Really? Okay.
And Val Kilmer's fun in this.
He is good.
Tom Cruise is good.
Tom Cruise is good. He plays this kind of young, cocky guy really well.
Yeah.
And it's something that it's a role that he kind of has moved out of a little bit. He's more kind of serious now, takes himself more seriously. This is kind of in the era where he was doing like Risky Business and stuff like that, where I think he was like 23 when he recorded this. That's the one way of saying it, but yeah. So he was very young, and I think he's probably one of the younger cast members in this.
Also, like from the first time they meet, so in like the class, there's so much sexual tension between the two.
Well, there's the two together. Is Iceman one of them? Where it's not even like tension. It's like overlying homoeroticism between these two. He's like, "Oh, I'll see you later," and it's like.
So we see them like making eyes in the classroom. There's then like the locker scene when they kind of square up, smile at each other, and you think they're gonna kiss. There's also them like toplessly playing volleyball against each other, and they're really looking at each other.
I'd seen that scene like taking the piss off, and I don't think it was quite as intense as but apart from the fact that Tom Cruise is playing the whole thing in jeans, which is hilarious.
But there is it's an 80s like manly man film, so like it's probably not intentional.
Exactly.
But that's kind of where a lot of these weird sexual tension stuff in those films come from, is that they're so oblivious to it.
Yeah.
But I did like them, and I liked their rivalry.
Yeah.
Also on that, I thought Maverick and Goose's bromance was great. You can tell they're genuinely like great friends.
Yeah, really good. And they kind of work well with each other. Goose is like a bit more like
he's a family man. He's got a wife and a kid.
Plays that really well, and it's a very good kind of duo there. And it's very sad when the inevitable happens.
I wrote down that Maverick and Goose have got a great bromance, and then literally the next scene, Goose dies, and I was like,
I mean, there is the scene, the cheesy scene where they were playing the piano together.
Yeah, that's the bit.
And it's very like, something's gonna happen. Did you not know that? Goose?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so I think I knew that going. I
remembered having seen the trailer for Top Gun Maverick. There's a character in there who's the son of somebody who's like, you killed my father.
It actually shows the photo that we see in this of them, and I think I'd remembered that.
And I remembered that, but I couldn't remember whose son he was because I didn't know Top Gun.
It's Miles Teller is playing Goose's son, and that kind of works because they look quite similar. I think he's got the little mustache as well in the new film, so that'll be an interesting dynamic.
And I was like, that's cool. And when he died, because when he ejects the plane, you can see the contact.
Yeah,
it is brutal.
It is, and that whole scene, it's very like drawn out where he's in the sea and he's kind of crying and holding
up until that point, it's a very kind of like fun, silly stuff, and it's like, no, this shit is serious.
I did wonder where the tension was going to come in, because they're not actively at war. It's Cold War kind of situation. But it's kind of
then like from that bit for the rest of the film, Maverick is a bit kind of reserved and unsure of himself. And it plays in the rest of the film really well. Like they used quite often a character dies and it's kind of like, was that needed? But in this, it's
very well done.
It's well done, and it really adds to Maverick's character. I can't remember his name. It's like Pete Matthews.
I think it's Pete Matthews. Yeah, there was a character who's in the introduction who I don't know. Is this part of your trivia? Maybe.
I don't think so.
So in the introduction, we get kind of this seriousness here.
Yeah,
and there's a duo. There's Maverick and Goose in one plane, and then there is Cougar and Merlin, I think they are, in the other plane.
Yeah.
And Cougar has a bit of a meltdown because he starts overthinking, and he has a bit of like a kind of PTSD shell shock moment. And he is played by John Stockwell, who we've seen in another project that we've covered.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what that is?
No, I recognize the name, though.
He is the lead in My Science Project.
Wow.
And I don't know if you remember, in My Science Project, we went through this, and we went, he plays Cougar in Top Gun, and we both went, we don't know who that is. So he's only in that introductory scene because he leaves their kind of flight school.
Mentioning that, interestingly, Merlin, who's kind of his back guy.
Yeah.
Is Merlin, he's then Maverick's back guy for the final bit. Yeah. Who's Tim Robbins.
Tim Robbins, that's right. Who's barely in this film at all.
When I saw the credits, I was like, wait, Tim Robbins. And I literally Googled
is
Top
it the
Gun
same
Merlin.
Tim Robbins?
And I was like, oh shit, it is Tim Robbins.
A
very early role for him. but yeah, I thought most of this film was good, fun.
I would agree. Going into kind of the negatives based on something you said earlier, I found some of the plane stunts, despite being incredible, and you can see a lot of it's done for real. I think maybe the upside down bit isn't done for real at the start. When they're cockpit to cockpit, it looked a little bit janky, but it's something they probably do now.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, yeah, it was amazing, but I did find it a bit hard to follow, even though the planes were different that were fighting each other. If you don't know your planes, it's kind of like who's who.
And because it's also a lot of it's from long shots, it's hard to even see which planes are ahead of other planes.
That's it, yeah.
So you have a shot of them being like, oh, I'm right behind him. They have a long shot and you're like, I don't see what planes are what here.
And I think that was one of the things that kind of took away from the great action, generally speaking.
The in the cockpit stuff was great, where they're like talking, because they did actually do real flight training. The guy that plays Goose was the only one that didn't throw up on their first time up in the plane. And apparently Tom Cruise wasn't sure about the film and they stuck him in the plane. He threw up loads, sat down, was like, when do we start filming? Because Tom Cruise is that kind of guy.
And that's what set him off on this whole crazy self-destructive adrenaline junkie streak.
One thing I wasn't a huge fan of was the love story between Maverick and the lieutenant.
I can't remember what she was
I
called.
was kind of bored throughout most of their scenes. Obviously it's an 80s action film, so there's got to be a love interest.
Kelly Ann McGillish is
I've got a bit of trivia on that, but I felt like I was kind of bored throughout.
It was a little
bits.
bit forced. There was some interesting stuff at the start, I think, when it was a bit like a forbidden romance and she was like, we can't be together,
but then they quickly forget about that.
And the thing I was going to mention earlier was one of the times that it plays Take My Breath Away is when they have this very long sex scene that's all silhouetted with blue lighting. And it's so drawn out, and I imagine it's supposed to be very like intimate and probably quite risque for the time. And there's a lot of like tongues silhouetted and stuff. I just thought it didn't work for me.
I thought the love story was going down the line that like they'd be at the bar together and Iceman or Hollywood somebody would walk in and see them together and be like, oh, because they're all the people in Top Gun are competing against each other win the Top Gun prize.
And she can't give him any extra kind of credit or anything like that. And she has to even actively criticize him in one scene, which is what causes the kind of...
I thought Iceman was going to walk in and be like, build this big tension about him only doing well because he's sleeping with the boss.
She'd have to leave the program or whatever.
But they kind of never do that.
And the scene where they're all playing piano together, it's very clear that they're like a couple. And it's like, it's something that they kind of forget about quite
Another thing
on.
I wasn't a huge fan of, like they needed a big action scene at the end, so they were just like, here, there's an unknown villain doing something. You guys need to go out and stop them. And like the action scene's cool. It's a lot of Maverick's learnt from his mistakes. He comes back from his unsureness.
He sticks
He's
with
a great
his wingman and all that.
To Iceman.
You can be my wingman any day.
He shoots down like 4 people, which I think I saw in the real Top Gun, like the instructors of people, they've shot down 1 person. It's really impressive. Shoot down 4 is like unheard of. And it's a cool action scene, but it's like, who are these people? What are they doing? Why should I care?
I mean, I guess it's vague Cold War stuff.
It is Cold War stuff, but it's like, so are they Russians? And how did this...
Because it's Indian Ocean, which I think is supposed to be a kind of vaguely neutral zone.
And they kind of mentioned that the opposition are denying this ever happened, which will be why it didn't lead to a war.
But then they say, like, it's on every newspaper. And it's like, would it be?
It's like, who I guess it's the Russians.
Yeah, or some sort of Soviet.
Because the Russians are the enemy in every 80s action film.
And maybe they didn't explicitly say it because I imagine the Navy, because it's Navy fighter pilots they are, I imagine had some influence in this film. They must have lent
definitely.
them.
I've seen some complaints being like Cold War propaganda.
I mean, it is. But it doesn't mean it can't be entertaining. It's like I was saying to Amy that the US military do put a lot of money to Marvel films both so they can use their
they
things.
always have put money into films.
Yeah,
you'll get the more blatant ones like American Sniper.
Yeah, but like even Captain Marvel had a lot of Air Force money in it because it shows the Air Force in a good way.
Yeah, and I just kind of wish the villain was like because it was kind of like an add-on to show kind of what they'd learned. Kind of things.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I guess the whole point is it's kind of remote fighting and stuff. But I'm interested. I don't know if you're ready to move into talking about Maverick too much.
I'll do a couple bits of trivia.
Yeah, you do a bit of trivia because I'm interested in where that's going.
So I've got two things basically building on what we were just saying about numerous critics. This both taken from IMDb. Numerous critics complained that the movie largely amounted to a Navy recruitment film.
Right.
The US Navy stated that the film's popularity resulted in a 500% increase in the number of recruits wanting to enter their aviation program.
Okay.
Paramount offered to include a Navy recruitment ad on the initial home video release in exchange for debits owed to the US Navy for their cooperation, using planes and stuff. However, the ad agency who produced ads for the US military informed the Pentagon that the movie itself was enough of a propaganda tool that an official recruitment ad would be redundant.
Yeah, what are they going to do? Put a message?
It is one of these things. It's like, even I was watching it, it'd be like, man, it'd be cool to be a fighter pilot.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, and they make a big deal about it being the Navy. A 500% increase.
That is insane.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's insane.
Although I also read that the current day Top Gun school, is you get a fine if you quote the film at all.
I bet a lot of people get those fines.
Yeah.
First day they're itching to say something.
Yeah.
They're accidentally like, oh yeah, you can be my wing dad. They say that instead. They accidentally say a line like, oh, you can be my wingman tomorrow. And like, I didn't say it.
The other bit of trivia I got, again building on something we've talked about. A test audience who saw the movie before it was released were annoyed that there was no love scene. The producers obliged, and 5 months after production had wrapped, they summoned Tom Cruise and Kelly McGillis to Chicago to film the infamous elevator and the sex scene.
Right, okay.
So the scene when they're in the elevator and they kind of get close and the other guy walks in.
Right.
And then that sex scene you're talking about.
On. Right,
during their time away from set, McGillis had lost approximately 16 pounds. And Cruise was actually filming The Colour of Money. So his hair was much longer in those two scenes.
Right,
McGillis' hair was almost much darker, hence why she hid it underneath a cap in the elevator scene.
You know what? There was a scene where I thought Tom Cruise looked quite different, but I don't think it was either of those two scenes. So maybe
it was one following.
Maybe it was. Yeah, maybe it made it.
But it's funny that we were literally like, don't need the love scene and the sex scene. They were literally added in 5 months later.
Fair enough.
Because 80s audiences needed a bit of love story.
But as I was saying before, like I don't know anything about the new film Maverick, so I'm kind of interested in how they do with
literally, it. What I'm aware of is that Tom Cruise is obviously Maverick's already older. I think he's coming back.
He's coming back
like an instructor
because at the end of this, he wants to be an instructor. So I assume he's done that for a bit, gone off. And they talk about in the trailer like real combat situations, so they're going to have to manufacture some sort of.
I imagine it will follow similar plot lines because also, as we kind of talked about, it's got Goose's son.
Yeah, who I think is Miles Teller in it.
Well, and that'll be some tension. I imagine by the end it'll be like, oh, actually they respect each other.
Like, actually, your dad I didn't kill your dad. It was just an accident.
And they literally do have a court scene in this saying that he didn't do anything wrong. I imagine it'll follow similar steps, but it's been 40 years.
Yeah, whatever. Even if it's basically the same thing, it's like it was because the action is going to be really good in this.
It'll be like a step up from that because it's 40 years later. And
it's
even some of the shots,
a good one.
And in the film, twice, both at the start and in the main action scene, he uses the break-in to get behind, and I think I saw a shot of that in the trailer.
Oh, right,
it's like his signature
move. I hope he does an upside down thing again. I'm sure he will do. Yeah,
or pull out some other trick. But overall, I thought Top Gun was good fun. Hot take from a white guy in his 20s. Top Gun's pretty good.
That's quite a young age for most Top Gun fans. I imagine.
True. So the only thing left, really. Top Gun Maverick is out very soon. Having watched Top Gun, Does this make you more hyped for Top Gun Maverick? Proj yes or proj no?
I would have to say that it is a proj yes.
Me too. I would say before watching Top Gun, I was largely indifferent to Maverick coming out.
Exactly the same. I'd seen the trailer in cinemas twice, I think, before Fantastic Beasts and before Doctor Strange 2.
Yeah.
And both times being like, okay, yeah, fair enough, but not really knowing the context. And, and it's just that slight kind of, it won't really be nostalgia for us, but you can see the kind of where it came from.
Yeah, even when I listed it on the potential silver screen project things, I was like, we could do that. I'm not that fast. But having watched that, I'm like, yeah.
It will be a bit of a kind of cinema event, I imagine. Yeah. People say that for a lot of
so
things.
So we both proj yes.
Proj yes.
I feel like we're mostly proj yes in these build-ups. I think
it's the build-ups and then we get let down by the new ones. That's
Fantastic Beasts 2 was the only one that I didn't say proj yes to.
Yeah, we have to watch more bad series.
Well, we may have some coming up. We've got a long series coming up. We've got a long,
which is tangentially related to this one.
We've got another one before then.
We've got at least one before then.
But for now, if you are a big Top Gun fan, please do let us know. We'd love to know some of the intricacies that maybe we didn't notice, having watched it on first viewing. Also, if you're also looking forward to Top Gun Maverick and you're sitting at home going, proj yes, let us know and get in contact. Our contact details all on our main podcast, The Project. Listen to that for that and get in contact. But for now, that is our thoughts on Top Gun, and we will come back to you once we've watched Top Gun Maverick.
We certainly will.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening.
I got the need for speed.
Woo!